Today, we're going to be comparing the Shop Hush Athena palette to the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk and seeing if this Shop Hush palette is really a dupe that's worth your coins. Hey girl, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Jensine, aka Jungle Naps. So in today's video, we're going to be delving into the Bad Habit Athena palette. Now, this palette is available on Shop Hush. Shop Hush sells, like affordable makeup that is pretty much known for being dupes of more higher end or mid-tier palettes. This specific palette is more of a dupe for the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk. I'm going to be showing you swatches of the Athena palette versus the Desert Dusk palette, and I'm also going to be doing a application of these shadows, creating a look with as many of them as I can use on my eyes and seeing how they compare. Now, the Athena palette retails for $12. Like, that's amazing. And when you compare it to the price of the higher end Huda Beauty Desert Dusk, this guy here, $65. So that's a huge price difference. Now, before we get deeper into this review, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please smash that subscribe button. I upload 3 times a week, and if you like beauty videos, beauty reviews, tutorials, favorites, all that kind of stuff, you will love this content. And if you're an oldie but a goodie subby, hey girl, it's so good to see you again. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this comparison. All right, so taking a look at the Athena palette, it's pretty much almost identical to the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk when you're just looking at it. Now, however, the Athena palette has a different palette theme. This one is based more on Greek mythology, so the shade names are Fierce, Triumph, Valor, Justice, Medusa, etc. So you catch my vibe. Very different from the vibe that's in the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk. But we all want to know how these perform, how they swatch. So I'm going to be doing a swatch comparison for you. Now, when comparing the swatches of the two palettes, you'll notice that actually the colors are almost identical. I think whoever crafted the Athena palette did a really great job in matching the different colors, because there are a lot of finishes. Some shades are toppers and some shades are smooth, kind of like buttery lid colors, you know what I mean? So they did a really great job with matching it. Now, the texture of the matte in the Athena palette differs from the Desert Dusk because the Desert Dusk palette shades seem to be a little bit more buttery, blend out a little bit better in these swatches. Now, the glittery shade in the Athena palette actually swatched better than the glittery shade in the Desert Dusk. The Desert Dusk one is meant to be used with setting spray or Fix Plus to apply it and to adhere to the lid. And I'm assuming that's the way that the Athena one was crafted as well, but I did notice that it swatched better on my hand than the Desert Dusk did. Okay, so now I'm ready to bring you a little bit closer and we can start applying these eyeshadows. Just to give you a heads up, I've already primed my eyes using my Smashbox 24-hour eye primer, and I went ahead and set that with my Fenty Beauty Invisimatte. So on this eye, I'm going to be using shadows from the Desert Dusk palette, and then on this eye, I'm going to be using shadows from the Athena palette. Now, just also if you guys are wondering, I'm going to be using different brushes as well for each palette, so that way I don't like mix up any shadows and we can see how each palette performs. Now, first off, I'm going to start with the shade right here. It's called Eden, and it's more of like a salmon pink shade that I like to use in my transition area. And most of the shadows in the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette are super buttery, so I'm really interested to see if that's going to be the same in the Athena palette. Okay, so that's it for this eye. Let me go ahead, switch brushes, and we're going to go into the same shade on the Athena palette. Okay, so the equivalent shade here is called Valor right here, and dipping into it, I do see a little bit of kickback as well, so that's promising, just like the Desert Dusk palette. And on the first application, it is just a bit lighter. If you guys can tell, it's not as deep salmon, which is fine. I don't need like an exact color, you know, match, but it's looking pretty good. So just by comparing them by looks, as you guys can see, they're pretty similar. This is the Athena side. I do say that when I get closer to my eye, I can definitely notice a difference in the formula. The Huda Beauty one looks a bit more buttery on my lids, and the Athena one just slightly emphasizes a bit more texture that's in my upper lid area, but it's not really a biggie to me. Let me go ahead and move on to some other shades. So on this Huda Beauty Desert Dusk, I'm going in with Saffron and just getting a little bit here, and I'm going to use that to deeper the transition area. Okay, so as you can see, I deepened the crease and I also brought it into the outer and the inner sides. And you know what? This particular shadow isn't exactly like amazingly buttery. It did require some blending. So I'm hoping that on the Athena side, it's a bit better. Now the equivalent on this side is called Power. And dipping my brush into it, I noticed just a slight bit of kickback, but look how much pigment came off. So there's a lot of pigment there, guys. And pigment is always a really good thing, isn't it? I have to say, guys, so far I'm digging it. Now, if you can tell the difference between the two, I don't notice too much as far as pigment goes. And I think blendability, they're about the same. So Saffron and Power are pretty comparable. All right, so I'm going to be applying some concealer right about in the middle. I've gotten inspired to do a spotlight eye look. Jamie Genevieve did the most beautiful one the other day. So I'm gonna try it and see how the rest of the palette fares. Okay, so now that that's done, I went ahead and I compared the shade, let's see, Nefertiti on the bottom here and Fierce over here, and they honestly look the exact same. Now on my hand, I can tell looking in person that Fierce definitely has more texture to it, meaning that you can see all the little fine lines in my hand, which I'm guessing looks the same on the eye. And Nefertiti looks more smooth with like subtle gold reflex. So this is a very, very minor difference. And honestly, if you're looking for something budget friendly, it doesn't even matter. But if you really want to know how the quality compares, I really have to break it down to those fine details for you guys. Okay, so first we're going in with Nefertiti on this eye. Okay guys, so I definitely noticed some fallout from Nefertiti. You know, with shades with glitter reflex in them, that happens. Let me see if the same is true for Fierce. So this is interesting, guys. I have to say, while I'm looking at this in my mirror, oh my gosh, Fierce actually looks like it's brighter, more pigmented on my lid than Nefertiti. So even though Nefertiti blends better, I believe, and doesn't emphasize texture, Fierce is actually brighter. This just keeps getting more interesting, doesn't it? So yeah, it's surprising. I actually think that I like this shade, Fierce, way more than the shade in Nefertiti, the Desert Dusk palette. And I also noticed that Fierce had less fallout. So that's another interesting point. Let me go ahead and finish up my face, and then we'll go ahead and do some lower eye stuff, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. All right, so I finished the rest of my makeup, and I'm going to go ahead underneath my eyes, and I'm going to apply the shade Blazing. So the shade definitely needs a little bit of building up, as you can see. It's not as pigmented as I would like. Okay, so there we go. Now on the other side, the comparable shade is this one right here, Lore. And using a different brush, I'm gonna go ahead, see how much pigment that is? Wow. Oh my gosh, that's like more pigmented than Blazing. I mean, honestly, they're pretty comparable. I kept this one on this side kind of like subtle because I didn't want it to stand too much out, but I think initially Lure is actually very, very pigmented. For the inner corner, I'm going in with Celestial on this side. So there's Celestial, it's more of like a pinky, shimmery kind of shade. And the equivalent here would be this one right here, Cunning. This one actually looks like a more yellowy tone, so we'll see what it looks like on my eyes. Oh wow, look you guys, like, it is actually pink shimmer. They actually got the same finish right. And what I love is, oh my gosh, it's like an exact match and it's slightly more pigmented if you ask me. Okay guys, so all of my makeup is complete. I have to say I am very, very impressed with how the Athena palette holds up to the Desert Dusk palette. Actually, the only thing that I have that's like kind of iffy to say about it is that I like how the Desert Dusk mattes blend better. They just look smoother, they look buttery, they go on the lid more buttery, if that makes sense. And it takes less time to actually blend them out. But with the Athena palette, I mean, shoot, like as long as you have some time to blend those colors out, then it doesn't really matter. And I think that these shimmers are more pigmented, and I'm actually really surprised with how they matched the exact shades. Like for me, I mean, you couldn't tell that I did this look with two palettes, you feel me? So I'm very, very impressed. Do I think it's worth $12? Hell yeah, I think it's worth $12, and I can't wait to use this some more. Now I do have some other palettes from Shop Hush. In fact, I have all of these. There's a lot. If you guys would like me to test some other ones so you can see how they fare, or maybe do some makeup looks with them, please let me know down in the comments below. If you like eyeshadow palette reviews, don't forget to check out this video over here. It's a review of the Urban Decay Back Talk palette, a very talked about palette, so go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. As always, I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!